Hi, my name is Grace Carter, and I'm 34 years old. My life hasn't been easy, but I've always tried to make the best of it. For years, I thought I had the perfect life. I was married to a man I deeply loved, Michael, and I cared for my stepson, Jamie, as if he were my own. But life has a way of surprising you, and sometimes, the people you trust the most can hurt you the deepest. My story is about betrayal, heartbreak, and finding the strength to stand up for myself. It all started on what seemed like a normal Tuesday. After a long day at work, I came home looking forward to a quiet evening, but as soon as I walked through the door, I felt something was wrong. Michael was standing in the living room with his arms crossed, looking upset. Jamie sat on the couch, avoiding my gaze. "Grace," Michael said coldly, "we need to talk." My stomach sank. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to stay calm. Michael's jaw tightened. "Jamie told me what you've been doing behind my back." I was confused. What are you talking about?" Jamie finally looked at me, tears in his eyes. "I saw you, Grace. You were on the phone with someone, laughing and saying you couldn't wait to meet up with him." My heart sank. Jamie had misunderstood something. "Jamie, you've got it wrong," I said gently. "I was talking to Lydia, my best friend, about meeting for coffee." But Michael didn't believe me. "Do you think I'm stupid? Jamie wouldn't lie about this." No matter how much I explained, Michael was convinced I had cheated. "I can't have someone like you in my house," he said coldly. "Pack your things and leave." I looked at Jamie, hoping he would speak up, but he stayed silent. My heart broke. That night, I packed my things, tears streaming down my face. The home I had worked so hard to make warm and loving felt like a stranger's house now. I stayed with Lydia that night. She listened as I poured out my heart. "You don't deserve this, Grace," she said. "You've done so much for them. You're better off without them." But I couldn't stop thinking about Jamie. He was just a kid, and I believed he must have been misled. The weeks that followed were hard. I had to find a new place to live and deal with the pain of losing the family I thought I had. But slowly, I realized I was stronger than I thought. One day, I ran into my old neighbor, Mrs. Linton. She said Jamie had told her grandson that I was planning to leave Michael for someone else. Shocked, I asked if Jamie had said anything else. Mrs. Linton hesitated, then said, "He mentioned how much he hated you always disciplining him and wanted things to go back to how they were before you came into their lives." Her words hit me hard. Jamie hadn't been misled, he had a reason to lie. Memories flooded back, and I realized this betrayal ran deeper than I had imagined. Jamie's behavior started to make sense, his reluctance to listen, his outbursts about wanting his dad to himself, and how he clung to Michael whenever I tried to set rules. Jamie had been struggling to accept me as a parental figure, and this lie was his way of trying to push me out. But what hurt the most was how easily Michael believed him. I told Lydia everything Mrs. Linton had said. She listened closely and then said, "Grace, this isn't just about Jamie. Michael should have trusted you enough to hear your side." "I know," I said with a sigh, "but he didn't even give me a chance. He just threw me out like I meant nothing." Lydia's eyes narrowed. "Then it's time to find out why. If Michael was so quick to believe Jamie, there's more to this story." With Lydia's encouragement, I started digging. I talked to friends, neighbors, and even one of Michael's coworkers. Slowly, the truth came to light. Michael had been feeling a lot of pressure at work, and our efforts to set boundaries with Jamie had caused tension at home. Jamie had noticed this and used it to his advantage, blaming me for their problems. But there was something else. One of Michael's coworkers mentioned overhearing him talk about regretting some decisions. "What kind of decisions?" I asked, my heart racing. The coworker shrugged. He didn't say much, but he seemed conflicted, like he knew he'd made a mistake. Then, out of the blue, I got a text from Michael. "Grace, I need to talk to you. Please meet me at the cafe near your old office." I stared at the message, torn. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but another part needed answers. I agreed to meet him the next day. When I arrived, Michael was already there, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen him. He stood as I approached, but I stayed where I was, crossing my arms. "What do you want, Michael?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. He looked down at the table, then back at me. "Grace, I think I made a mistake." "Oh, you think?" I said, my tone sharp. "You kicked me out without even listening to me. What do you expect me to say?" Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I was under a lot of pressure. Jamie seemed so convincing, but now, I'm starting to realize I was wrong." Hearing this gave me a small sense of satisfaction. But it wasn't enough. You didn't just make a mistake, Michael, I said firmly, you betrayed me. You chose to believe a child's lie over your wife's honesty. Michael looked genuinely remorseful, but I wasn't ready to forgive him. I need time to think, I said, standing up, but don't think an apology will fix this. You need to prove you're willing to change. As I left the cafe, I felt a newfound strength. For the first time in weeks, I was in control. Michael's apology lingered in my mind, but it wasn't enough to undo the damage. If he wanted forgiveness, he'd have to earn it. A week later, I was surprised to see Jamie standing nervously outside my apartment door. Jamie? I asked, confused, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you, he stammered. Something in his vulnerable demeanor made me step aside and let him in. As soon as the door closed, Jamie burst into tears. I'm sorry, Grace, he sobbed. I didn't mean for things to get this bad. I just wanted Dad to spend more time with me. Guiding him to the couch, I sat beside him, trying to process his words. Jamie, why did you lie about me? Through tears, Jamie confessed that he had felt jealous of the time Michael and I spent together. He resented the rules I had set and thought if I were gone, things would go back to how they were, but he quickly realized it only made things worse. I didn't think it would turn out like this, he admitted, voice cracking. Jamie, I said gently, do you understand how much pain you caused? You didn't just hurt me, you hurt your dad too. Families are supposed to support each other, not tear each other apart. I know, he whispered, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, Grace. I'll do anything to fix this. Please don't hate me. I don't hate you, Jamie, I said with a heavy sigh, but fixing this won't be easy. You need to tell your dad the truth. The next evening, Jamie asked me to come with him to Michael's house so he could confess. Though uneasy, I agreed. When we arrived, Michael looked shocked to see me, but Jamie quickly stepped forward. Dad, I need to tell you something, he began, voice trembling. I lied about Grace. She didn't do any of the things I said. I made it up because I wanted her to leave. Michael's face went pale. Jamie, what are you saying? I was jealous, Jamie admitted, tears welling up again. I thought if Grace was gone, things would get better, but I was wrong. I'm sorry, Dad. Michael turned to me, his face filled with guilt and shame. Grace, I don't know what to say. I can't believe I let this happen. I'm so sorry for everything. Crossing my arms, I kept my expression neutral. Jamie's owning up to his mistake, but what about you? You didn't just believe his lie, you acted on it without even giving me a chance to explain. Do you have any idea how much that hurt? Michael's voice broke. I do, and I'll never forgive myself for it. I let you down, and Jamie too. I was so caught up in everything else that I didn't stop to think. While their apologies were a step forward, I wasn't ready to let go of the pain. This isn't something we can fix overnight, I said firmly. It's going to take time and effort from both of you to rebuild the trust that was broken. Michael nodded eagerly. I'll do whatever it takes, Grace. I just want a chance to make things right. Jamie looked at me with hopeful eyes. Me too, Grace. I promise I'll do better. I laid out my conditions: open communication, mutual respect, and for Jamie to accept me as part of the family while following the rules. For Michael, it meant proving he valued our marriage enough to stand by me, even when things got tough. They both agreed. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope, but as I left Michael's house that night, I knew this was just the beginning. The weeks that followed were filled with tentative steps toward rebuilding trust. I wasn't ready to fully commit to my marriage, but I wasn't ready to end it either. Moving forward would require them to truly understand the depth of the hurt they caused, and the work it would take to mend it. Michael called me every evening to update me on the changes he was making at home. He had started attending a parenting workshop to improve how he communicated with Jamie and began therapy to work on his impulsiveness and tendency not to listen. Grace, I've been thinking a lot, he said during one call. I know I let you down. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I promise I'm working to be better, for you and Jamie. It was clear Michael was serious, but I needed more than words. I wanted to see real changes before I could even think about giving him another chance. Jamie was also working on himself. He started seeing a child therapist who helped him process his jealousy and insecurities. He even wrote me a heartfelt letter apologizing for his actions and promising to do better. One day, Jamie looked at me and said, Grace, can we start over? I want to be a better stepson. I want us to be a family again. His sincerity touched me. I smiled and replied, we'll get there, Jamie. but it will take time and effort from both of us. While they worked on themselves, I focused on my own healing. I threw myself into my work, taking on new projects and starting a side business I'd always dreamed of. I also reconnected with old friends who reminded me of who I was before all this turmoil. Their support helped me regain my strength and confidence. About 2 months later, Michael asked if we could meet again as a family. He wanted Jamie to be part of the conversation so we could discuss how to move forward. I agreed but made my expectations clear. This isn't about going back to how things were, I told him. If we want to move forward, we need to build on solid ground. We met at a park, with a small cafe nearby. Michael brought a notebook filled with ideas on how to improve our family dynamics. Jamie had written down personal goals for himself, too. Michael started. Grace, I know I've apologized before, but I need to say it again. I'm so sorry for everything. I've been working hard to be a better husband and father. I hope you see that. Jamie added, I've been trying too. Grace, I know I have a lot to prove, but I want you to know I'm serious about being better. I listened to them carefully, appreciating their effort but reminding them of the importance of trust, respect, and open communication. By the end of our meeting, we agreed to take things one step at a time. Michael and Jamie would continue their therapy, and I would maintain my independence while giving our family a chance to heal. We hugged before leaving, a small but hopeful sign of progress. The journey had been tough, but it taught me valuable lessons about resilience, self-worth, and forgiveness. Although the pain of betrayal hadn't disappeared, I chose to focus on the growth that came from it. In the weeks that followed, I saw real changes in both Michael and Jamie. They were more communicative, respectful, and committed to making our family work. While the future was still uncertain, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Healing wasn't just about fixing relationships, it was about finding the strength to move forward, no matter what lay ahead.